and many Star Trek TV series, Star Trek spin-off films, and including numerous the Star Trek fan films, which have been really great over the last couple of years. You also know him as Alfred Bester on Babylon 5. He is an author, he is an actor, he is an activist, and he is here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Walter Koenig.
Hello. It's really a pity. I'm in this terrific city with all of this history and reputation, and I'm not going to get a chance to see it. I really looked forward to coming to Austin. In fact, there was a point about 2 years ago when I was approached about doing a film here. And I thought, boy, this is the best of all possible worlds. Do a terrific script and visit in this wonderful art community that they have here in Austin. Alas, that didn't happen. So at least I get a chance to visit the people of Austin. And that is
My question's going to seem really shallow after all that.
Can you make a little louder project?
Hi.
Yes, I got that.
You stole my question. I was going to say that you should say nuclear vessels. So I guess can you just say it again?
You realize it takes an enormous amount of focus and concentration.
Brace yourself, everyone.
Can you tell me where the nuclear vessels are, please?
My question too. Given the wide variety of sci-fi shows that are still popping up out there, what is your favorite sci-fi property that's out there right now?
Well, you know, it really kind of ticks me off. See, I'm censoring myself here. I get involved in a show, I really enjoy it, and then boom, 4 episodes later, it's off the air. So I'm very reluctant to embrace any show that I think will be stimulating and have an interesting premise, because they don't seem to last very long. If it's cops and robbers, those go on ad infinitum, ad nauseum. But like the show, although it wasn't a cops and robbers show, but I thought the show with the guy who was married to 2 women. One was like a cheerleader, and one was a very rich lady. See, you don't even know it because it was only on the air for 2 episodes.
I love polygamy, yeah.
Yeah. I thought, how are they going to handle this? This is going to be very interesting. Because it's a tough premise, and how are they going to be able to manage it? So I was looking forward to seeing that go on. I also thought the show where time stops, and and everybody projects the future, Yeah, flash forward. I thought that was an interesting idea. Although I thought, very frankly, they were running out of ideas about 6 episodes into it. But it certainly started out as a very interesting idea. So that was kind of a science fiction show that I liked.
What'd you think of Firefly?
I didn't see Firefly. I saw the movie, and the movie was quite good. I did see the first season of Battlestar Galactica because somebody gave me all the DVDs. And I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think I'll have a problem with that. Bester and Chekhov, 2 very different ends of the spectrum. Which was more rewarding, and how was it different?
Well, I think it's self-evident how it was different. I mean, I'm just boring you to tears if I explain the difference, because they're bipolar, But it was certainly the more gratifying role that I played, because it was a role that was pivotal, to the story. Whenever Bester came on the show, he had something important to do. He didn't have to resort to screaming, I'm here, Chekhov, So, you know, and workvector voorkipting, you know, how many different ways, workvector voorkipting. I mean, how many different ways can you say it? You know, again, not to say, I hasten to add, because it's totally shaped my life and my career, that I have enormous gratitude for Star Trek. Enormous gratitude. It's bizarre. It's bizarre how it has made me the person that I am. Well, maybe not, you know, the internal ethic and the internal moral code, but certainly what has happened in my life has certainly, you know, direct relationship with my involvement with Star Trek. But yeah, Babylon 5. Character was more dimensional. It was an adventure every week because Joe Straczynski would add something. And I say, okay, now how do I justify this? How do I add this to the character? How do I, you know, layer the character with this particular quality, this aspect? I mean, we didn't know that he had, you know, a deep-rooted love for someone other than his wife when this character began on the show. I learned that later, and but you know, they never asked me to do more than I knew. But then they would give me other stuff to do, and then I'd have to incorporate that. So that just made the character richer and made it more, you know, more nuanced, and it made it more fun to play. So you know, as an actor, that's always a wonderful thing. When you have the challenge of nuance, when you're not just playing, you know, good and evil, when you actually have conflict and you have because we're all that way. That's the truth, you know. We're all loaded with conflicts. We're loaded with contradictory feelings. Like we can espouse one feeling and totally believe it, and yet in another situation we might react very differently. But that's what we are. And so the more complex the character is, the more real life it possesses, the more it breathes. And as I say, that's great fun to work on.
I just wanted to say thank you. Growing up with my dad, we watched a lot of Star Trek, and long story short, he's not around anymore, but I still have those vivid memories of him and I watching Star Trek together, and I want to thank you for being part of that.
Thank you. You know, this young man made a very, very good point. There was a time when you know, people would come up to DeForest Kelley and say, you know, they decided to go into medicine because of him. People would come up to Jimmy and say they decided to become engineers because of them. And there was nothing that anybody could come up and tell me, I decided to become a Russian spy because one young woman, this is beside the point, did join the State Department. And when I spoke to her years later, she told me she could not tell me precisely what it was that she did. So she was doing something interesting. But the thing that I am most touched by, and this young man just articulated it, is the people who come up to me, the girls and the boys, the young men, the young women who said that they bonded with their parent over watching Star Trek. That's as big a compliment as you can give me, even though I'm just, you know, part of the moving furniture. That notwithstanding, I could take some succor, some sense of gratification out of that people came closer, family members came closer because of that. So that I think is terrific. Yes.
What part of your job in Star Trek did you like the most?
The daily trips to the bank. No, I'm totally disillusioned that kid.
I'm afraid we have time for only one more question. So, Garrett.
First of all, you were absolutely my inspiration for deciding to become a Russian spy.
To do what?
To become a Russian spy.
Oh, yeah, good.
And,
Talk to you later, comrade.
I had thought about say nuclear whistles again, but I decided to give you a break and ask you if I could have a talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to end with one very quick story because you got to leave them with a laugh, right? Star Trek has been such an extraordinary, encompassing, influential element in my life. It's just, in every aspect of my life, it goes on and on and on. Many years ago, about 20 years ago, I was having a surgery on my left knee. And it's supposed to be, a very simple, what's it called?
Procedure.
What?
Procedure?
Yeah, that too. But where they orthoscopic. Thank you, sir. Procedure that I know. Orthoscopic.
Sorry.
I remember. Anyway, it was supposed to be an orthoscopic procedure, very simple. Be out of there in less than an hour, walking in 24 hours, and they absolutely, reassured me I would have no problem. Well, it turned out that the procedure was. See, I'm not going to use that word for the rest of the day. The procedure went on for almost 3 hours, and I was, under the anesthesia for that long a time, because it was far more complicated than I had gone when I went under, than I had thought when I went under. In any event, 3 hours have gone by. I'm coming out of the anesthesia, right? I'm awakening to the world for the first time, and wouldn't you know that the anesthetist was a Star Trek fan. Because as my eyes are blinking open, he leans over to me and says, "I've got a wee bit of bad news for you, man."
Thank you, Walter Koenig.